Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Stream has been approved for truth seekers by the DefCon Truth Alliance.
If the opinion that's coming out needs people to be silenced, it's a PSYOP. There are psychological operations in play.
So if you can't question it, if you're supposed to just go along, it's a PSYOP.
Yeah, and if people have to be silenced or publicly shamed because of their information, and they're not telling people the sky's falling, they're not saying crazy shit. Mm-hmm. They're just saying basic stuff, and they need to be silenced. That is a PSYOP.
There's a war out there, old friend. A world war. And it's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information. What we see and hear, how we work, what we think. It's all about the information.
Over to that location.
We have an Insurrection Act for a reason.
Bad guy can't win. It's a morality tale.
This is warfare. This is warfare.
What the eyes see and the ears hear, the mind believes.
This is warfare. This is warfare. Goodbye. You can run, but you can't hide.
It's gotta be biblical.
One by one, one by one, say goodbye. One by one, say goodbye. One by one, say goodbye. You can run, but this is fire. This is warfare. This is warfare. This is warfare. This is warfare.
We have an army of digital soldiers. What we are now, what we call, I call them, because this was an insurgency, folks. This was run like an insurgency. This was irregular warfare at its finest in politics. And that story will continue to be told here. But we have what we call citizen journalists. Okay? Because the journalists that we have in our media did a disservice to themselves actually more than they did to this country. They did a disservice to themselves because they displayed an arrogance that is unprecedented. And so the American people decided to take over the idea of information. They took over the idea of information, and they did it through social media.
Well, let's go ahead and fix
Gives
this.
me goosebumps.
Absolutely. It is November 25th, 2025. It is episode 19 of DefCon 0, unfiltered, uncensored, unfolding, and most definitely live. I did not have that on my bingo card today. And I think what probably hit harder is when you told me, did you see what he posted with it?
So for anybody who doesn't know, I sent Alpha my post with the reply or the repost of Flynn's, and Alpha's like, "Whoa, this is crazy! Get ready! Oh my god!" I'm like, "No! Did you watch what he posted with it?" And what we are talking about is General Michael Flynn's post earlier today. Get ready, calling out digital soldiers. Now, this is really interesting because he posted this at 5:32 p.m. When you go to post 5:32. Watch. I want people to see this coordination. MSM Fake News Awards. Are you prepared? Flynn says, are you ready? Are you prepared? Memes post organized and coordinated. POTUS may retweet one or more. We'll get into that in a second. Ready for launch? Show the world the truth. Open their eyes. Don't let POTUS suffer from the Soros loser bots that continually flood. Make the Fake News Awards your first organized tweet storm day, making America great again. Now, this is interesting because soon after this, Donald Trump went out and posted 9 different posts in a row from one Anon account. Now, that account says, I stand with Trump, is the name. I stand with Trump 47, which was interesting because my second reply to this was to Donald Trump, and I said, I stand with President Donald Trump. Then all of a sudden, Trump started posting this. So he started posting right after this. But Alpha, I don't know if you noticed this, but in this Delta 532 from Flynn's post, it says what? POTUS may retweet one or more. Hold on a second, because what happened earlier today with the White House?
If you're going where I think you're going, I'm gonna be smiling.
Well, what happened with what did the White House repost earlier today?
Well, I know I had some involvement in that, if that's the direction you're going.
That's right. Well, the White House posted multiple different veterans out there talking about seditious six, and Alpha just happened to be one of them. But I love the fact that,
all right, let me find this.
But I love the fact that this post that Flynn puts out there, 532, POTUS may retweet one or more. Are you ready? This, to me, this is a signifier. This is a massive comm that, hey, it's happening. This is real. Are you ready? Buckle up. The post correlates directly with contextual reference to exactly that. Now, what could be happening here? Oh, I think there's a lot of things that we could break down of what could be happening. We got to talk a little bit about Sunday night. But if you go to the White House earlier today, the White House started posting a bunch of veteran patriots. I didn't make a short video. Sad.
Not yet. But I just want to show everybody this is the official White House account. There's the verified account marker, so everybody knows. And then I'm going to scroll down because they did a lot of posting, talked about the pardon turkeys, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. And here we go. And there's Dan Ball, old school friend. And there it is. As a matter of fact, it's a quick video. If you, let me play it so everybody can hear what it's
go ahead.
All right, here we go.
Good evening, America. This message is for the seditious six, including that traitor Cali, that disgrace. This comes from a Marine who wore the uniform in combat in Iraq in 2003. We don't need politicians cosplaying as patriots, telling our American warriors and our vets about illegal orders. These men and women are trained from day one. You follow a lawful order, you do not follow an illegal order. They understand this. They have the mental capacity to figure that out. And all you did was insult them by even suggesting what you did and putting out the rhetoric you did. But let's be honest, this wasn't about illegal orders. This was about sowing doubt in the minds of the men and women serving under the president to doubt the president. That's what you were really trying to do. What you did was seditious conspiracy at a minimum. You were putting politics into the chain of command, which has made things dangerous for not just our troops, but all of America. That's what you have done. You do not care about America. You do not care about our troops. You care about politics, and it shows. You guys are absolutely a disgrace. I hope you are investigated for seditious conspiracy and every other law that applies. And at the end of that investigation, I hope you're held accountable. And I hope the consequence that is found from that is exactly what the law outlines for. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, baby. Now, I gotta say, when I got wind of this, you can imagine that's like the White House.
Well, I know it's crazy, right? Now they reposted 11 veterans. 11. Now, I find that number interesting because I'm going to pull this post over here. I'm going to go grab this guy. When you go to post 11 on the boards, they posted 11 patriots. I think that's really important. Post 11, October 29, 2017. Key. Military intelligence versus FBI, CIA, NSA. No approval or congressional oversight. State secrets upheld under Supreme Court. Who is the commander-in-chief of the military? What did they repost? They reposted
Military
veterans.
vets.
Yep. Under what article can the president impose military intelligence takeover investigations for three-letter agencies? What conditions must present itself? Why is this so very important? Who surrounds POTUS? They lost this very important power, the one area of the government not corrupt and directly serves POTUS. Now, there's another part here. Because
I know where you're going with this, bro. Wow.
So I want you to also go into this part. Now, remember when we talked about the White House, POTUS, Flynn said they're going to repost some of you guys. Oh, boom, White House reposts you guys. Are you ready? Talking about information warfare. They reposted you and 11 or 10 others, okay? And the post is 11, key. Not Keystone, key. Drop 271. Military intelligence, no such agency equals key. POTUS and patriots equals stone. What did they just post on that White House page? 11 of them, patriots. Keystone.
Oh, I'm just a guy doing my job before the rumors start flying.
But so this is an interesting trend that I'm going to put out there because DefCon's a great show. We also do another show on Sunday night called Q After Hours, which I think there's some people watching that show that are pretty well connected. I'm just saying. But we found this trend. We did some things on Q After Hours one night. We're saying, hey, POTUS is posting this at the same time we're talking about it. Wonder if this is coordination. We asked for a keyword. They gave us the keyword. And then a few weeks later, we were talking about another topic. And sure enough, the next day, that topic is being talked about by President Trump, and it's being brought into the media. This last Sunday, Alpha played an interview with Defender of the Republic, and we are already on the discussion of how I believe Susie Wiles was about to be fired. The Susie Wiles is going to be removed from the White House, and that Dan Scavino is most likely going to be her replacement. This is why they put Dan Scavino in charge of all executive branch hiring, because then he gets to place in the position all the people that he's going to be working with. He gets to meet all of the other heads of the department, the bureaucracy. He has all the connections, and it's actually the perfect spot prior to becoming chief of staff. Now, sure enough, Monday, right after our show, Paul Sperry comes out and says, White House insiders are telling me that the Trump administration is going to be firing Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, by the end of the year. Now, I waited. Good.
Before you go further, because this is going to turn out to be something just poetic. It's one of those, wait, there's more, but we got to pay some bills. People are like, oh, come on, Alpha.
You even got me with that one.
What? So
pay your bills. I'm gonna hold my spot.
You make
Wiles.
sure you hold that spot with Wiles. Don't forget. And with that, let's pay some bills real quick. Hold on. Our stuff is thrown out of sync. And
Trump is a Masonic traitor, dude.
There.
I will school anybody on the topic of Masons. Anything.
And here we go. I found our videos. Trump is not a traitor. Godly. All right, here we go. First on deck, Loaded Gun Coffee. And I think I have some coffee on the way. Badlanders, you are familiar with Loaded Gun Coffee. They have been longtime supporters of Badlands, and you may have met them in person at GART. But did you know they are a veteran-ran, family-owned shop in Lake Havasu, Arizona? Every bag of their whole bean coffee delivers a high-octane, patriotic punch of flavor. With a long family of history, commitment to freedom, every bag is a testament of pride and honor. I'm excited, folks. From the skilled farmers who cultivate each blend to their roasters that handpick the finest beans from around the world, Loaded Gun Coffee has mastered their unique brewing methods, resulting in the best tasting coffee around. This coffee is smooth and delicious, the perfect way to start your morning. Get over to badlandsmedia.tv/loaded and use promo code Badlands to get 10% off of your order. If you're in the Lake Havasu area, stop in their newly renovated store and say hi. That is badlandsmedia.tv/loaded. Promo code Badlands. Stay loaded with Loaded Guns Coffee. And one more amazing one, and then when we come back, we got more Susie Wiles.
You deserve more than sluggish mornings and blood sugar spikes. Discover the simple daily system that helped so many regain health without dieting or exercise routines. 2 easy-to-take daily drinks. A brain-boosting, appetite-suppressing morning blend that ushers in energy and clarity. A hearty, fiber-packed pre-meal drink that stabilizes blood sugar, aids digestion, and fights cravings. It's a gentle, science-backed path to improved metabolism, renewed vitality, and lasting weight control. Feeling better starts with this simple 2-step daily protocol.
Unicity, folks. So if you are tired of feeling sluggish and can't lose weight, or you're just tired of the hold Big Pharma has on you, head over to badlandshealth.com to get started today. You got nothing to lose. 90-day back money guarantee, you guys.
Except
so
for
again, but wait, exactly. Badlandshealth.com. Those links will be down in the description as well. Susie Wiles, please continue.
So we come out, and then the next day, Paul Sperry, and then everybody starts talking about Susie Wiles is going to be fired from the White House. And nothing from Trump's team, nothing from the White House, nothing from the press secretary. Then today, the rumor starts circulating that Kash Patel is going to be fired by Donald Trump. Now, this was crazy because immediately after this rumor began circulating, you got Caroline Leavitt that comes out. The story is completely made up. In fact, when this fake news published, I was in the Oval Office where President Trump was meeting with law enforcement team, including Kash Patel. I read the headlines to the president and he laughed. He said, "What? This is totally false. Come on, Kash. Let's take a picture to show them you're doing a great job." And there's the picture. Then,
hold on, you can't say it. Let me bring it up for you.
Oh, I didn't bring it up. Shit, I'm sorry. Okay. Then Trump is asked the same question later in the day.
Nothing like it.
Are you planning to replace Kash Patel as
No, he's doing a good job. Kash Patel? No, he's doing a great job, I think.
This week we saw those cases.
Now, what do you notice? Alpha put a funny post out there earlier. Sometimes it's not about what they say, it's about what they didn't say. For example, the White House immediately set the record straight with Kash Patel and fake news about his firing. What you say, Joshua Reid? And I say, well, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Sunday night, we discuss how Susie Wiles is most likely heading out the door. The next day, Paul Sperry and others start talking about how Trump is going to be replacing Susie by the end of the year, possibly with Dan Scavino. A day after this, rumors circulate that Kash is going to be fired. Press secretary immediately called this fake news. Trump comes out and calls this fake news. Notice they didn't say anything about Susie Wiles.
Because sometimes it's about what they don't say.
That's right.
Touche, brother. We make a good team, bro.
We do. Now, I actually want to go back to the Flynn stuff because I find it kind of interesting, and I know that you're going to love this, that a few days ago, the 4th PsyOps division put a new video out. Now, they didn't put it on their YouTube channel. They put a new video out. And inside this new video, we have tons of different nuggets. The 1st Anon division. We come in all forms. And that's the 1st Anon division. By the way, the 1st Anon PsyOps division doesn't actually exist. Okay? But they put this in their video. The next one you see, the Ghost Army. Right? And then you also get the Pepe one with the 2nd Civilian PsyOps division. This is almost like a head nod to the Anon army. Hey, Ghost Army. Hey, the 2nd Civilian. Hey, all my Anons, Pepes. The 1st Anon division, the military, key, military intelligence. 1st Anon division, 2nd Anon division. The Patriots, the Stone, 2nd Civilian PsyOps division. Right? And then the Ghost Army. And then General Flynn comes out today and says what? Get ready with the video clip that started it all. The video clip that quite literally is the signifying video for the whole Anon movement, for the whole we are the news.
Now, I want to play that video in its entirety. It's 1 minute and 17 seconds. While I play that, if you can go to the frame on that video, I think it's at the 19-second mark, the 20-second mark. We did talk about this on Q After Hours, but I do know we have an audience that doesn't watch the weekend shows. And so I want them to see something because we've also talked about this.
We talked about this.
We have. So
where are the comms at? Where are the comms at?
You're going to see it on this video. If you guys aren't tracking, pay attention around 19, 20 seconds. And Josh will find the still frame as well. But here we go.
Damn army.
There's another force applied in combat that we generally don't think of as a weapon of war. That weapon is words. Words are weapons.
Telling the truth is the only way in which to influence people.
This is psychological warfare.
Now, I noticed something there I didn't notice all the other 100 times I listened to it. Because it directly correlates to what General Flynn was saying in that video. They say, telling the truth is the only way to influence people. Now, what better platform to influence people? Because we are everywhere on X.
And what do you see behind that X? Regular people, military people, everything. We're everywhere.
And what are those people called? The Ghost Army. Hey, bring up that article, actually.
I wanted to read the article tonight, so I'm
do it. Bring it up. Let's just jump right into this because I want people to understand the things that we've been laying the groundwork for, how we were talking about kind of like secret societies that were working for the good to do things around the world. We're not making this shit up. We're not making it up when we say that there's groups of patriots that are infiltrated in the deep state. We're not making it up when we say that, you know, that there's good actors put in places in harm's way right now. That there really is something going on. And I know that Marjorie Taylor Greene said there is no 4D chess, there is no plan. And then General Flynn came out and said there's no 5D chess. You notice the difference in that? One says there's no 4D chess. One says there's no 5D chess. Well, why would General Flynn tell us there's no 5D chess? Maybe he was hinting towards something, because Donald Trump has said himself, there is no 5D chess. It's only 4D chess. And I didn't even pull up that video. But maybe General Flynn was telling us 4D is actually what? 45, 54. Oh, sorry, General Flynn said 5D chess. That's 54. Post 54, for I know the plans I have for you. So you got to remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying there's no 4D chess and there's no plan, right?
Correct.
Then General Flynn comments on someone commenting on it, and he says, there is no 5D chess being played. It is what it is. You get what you see. Well, we know what we see. We are watching it, and we're talking about it, and it seems like there's definitely a plan. But if you look at post 54, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. I don't know. That tells me that there's definitely a plan.
Remind me, because I'm just going to show it on my Monday show, which I didn't get to, so it's probably going to be sometime tomorrow or the following day. But before the show's over tonight, remind me to play the Flynn video, and I'll know what you say if I don't remember. But let me bring up this article, and feel free to stop me at any time. So this article comes back from 2021, and if don't hold my feet to the fire here, but I'm almost confident that Newsweek was the first reporting one on this. I went back to see if I could find some other ones, and they were all posts the date that Newsweek did it. And what I found interesting is Newsweek did this on May 17th. I'm sure that was just a coincidence. It reads, exclusive inside the military's secret undercover army. And it goes on. The largest undercover force the world has ever known is the one created by the Pentagon over the past decade. Some 60,000 people now belong to this secret army, many working under masked identities and in low profile, all part of a broad program called Signature Reduction. The force, more than 10 times the size of the clandestine elements of the CIA, carries out domestic and foreign assignments, both in military uniforms and under civilian cover, in real life and online, sometimes hiding in private businesses and consultancies, some of them household name companies. The unprecedented shift has placed an even greater number of soldiers, civilians, and contractors working under false identities, partly as a natural result in the growth of a secret special forces, but also as an intentional response to the challenges of traveling and operating in an increasingly transparent world. The explosion of the Pentagon cyber warfare, moreover, has led to thousands of spies who carry out their day-to-day work in various made-up personas, the very type of nefarious operations the United States decries when Russia and the Chinese spies do the same. Newsweek exclusive report on the secret world is the result of a 2-year investigation involving the examination of over 600 resumes and 1,000 job postings, dozens of Freedom of Information Act requests, and scores of interviews with participants and defense decision makers. What emerges is a window into not just a little-known sector of the American military, but also a completely unregulated practice. No one knows the program's total size, and the explosion of signature reduction has never been examined for its impact on military policies and culture. Congress has never held a hearing on the subject, and yet the military developing this gigantic clandestine force challenges U.S. laws, the Geneva Conventions, the Code of Military Conduct, and basic accountability. Right. The signature reduction effort engages some 130 private companies to administer the new clandestine world. Dozens of little-known and secret government organizations support the program, doling out classified contracts and overseeing publicly unacknowledged operations. Altogether, the companies pull in over $900 million annually to service the clandestine force, doing everything from creating false documentation and paying bills and taxes of individuals operating under assumed names to manufacturing disguises and other devices to thwart detection and identification, to building invisible devices to photograph and listen in on the activity in the most remote corners of the Middle East and Africa. Special forces constitute over half the entire signature reduction force, the shadow warriors who pursue terrorists in war zones from Pakistan to West Africa, but also increasingly in unacknowledged hotspots, including behind enemy lines in places like North Korea and Iran. Military intelligence specialists, collectors, counterintelligence agents, and linguists make up the second largest element, thousands deployed at any one time within some degree of cover to protect their true identities. The newest and fastest growing group in the clandestine army that never leaves their keyboards. These are the cutting edge cyber fighters and the intelligence collectors who assume false personas online, employing non-attribution and misattribution techniques to hide the who and the where of their online presence while they search for high value targets and collect what is called publicly accessible information, or even engage in campaigns to influence and manipulate social media. Hundreds work in and for the NSA, but over the past 5 years, every military intelligence and special operations unit has developed some kind of web of operations cell that both collect intelligence and tends to the operational securities of its very activities. In the electronic era, a major task of signature reduction is keeping all the organizations and people, even the automobiles and aircraft involved in the clandestine operations, masked. The protective effort entails everything from scrubbing the internet of telltale signs of true identities to planting false information to protect missions and people. As standard unforgettable identification and biometrics have become worldwide norms, the signature reduction industry has also works to figure out ways of spoofing and defeating everything from fingerprinting and facial recognition at border crossings to ensuring that undercover operatives can enter and operate in the United States, manipulating official records to ensure that false identities match up. Just as biometrics and real ID are the enemies of clandestine work, so too is the digital exhaust of online life. One major concern of counterterrorism work is the ISIS age, is the military families are also vulnerable. Another reason participants say to operate under false identities. The abundance of online information about individuals, together with some spectacular foreign hacks, has enabled foreign intelligence services to better unmask fake identities of American spies. Signature reduction is thus at the center of not only counterterrorism, but is part of the Pentagon's shift towards great power competition with Russia and China. Competition, influence, and disruption below the level of armed conflict, or what the military calls warfare in the gray zone, a space in the peace conflict continuum. One recently retired senior officer responsible for overseeing signature reduction and super secret special access programs, we've heard that before, that shield them from scrutiny and compromise, says that no one is fully aware of the extent of the program, nor has much consideration been given to the implications for the military institution. Everything from the status of the Geneva Conventions, where a soldier operating under false identity to be captured by the enemy, to congressional oversight is problematic, he says. He worries that the desire to become more invisible to the enemy not just obscures what the United States is doing around the world, but also makes it more difficult to bring conflicts to a close. Most people haven't even heard of the term signature reduction, let alone what it creates, he says. The officer spoke on the condition of anonymity because he is discussing highly classified matters. Every morning at 10 a.m., Jonathan Darby embarks on his weekly rounds of mail call. Darby is not his real name, but it is also not his fake name on his Missouri driver's license that he uses to conduct his work. And the government car he drives, one of a fleet of over 200,000 federal vehicles owned by the General Services Administration, is also not registered in his real or his fake name, and nor are his magnetically attached Maryland state license plates really for his car, nor are they traceable back to him or his organization where Darby works, and the locations he visits, also classified. Darby's retired from the Army, and he asked that neither his real name nor his cover name be used. He served for 20 years in counterintelligence, including 2 African assignments where he operated in low profile in Ethiopia and Sudan, masquerading as an expat businessman. Now he works for Maryland-based signature reduction contractor, and that he asked Newsweek not to identify. As Darby makes his rounds to some 40 or so post offices and storefront mailbox stores in the DC metropolitan area, he picks up a truck full of letters and packages, mailing a similar number from rural addresses. Back at the office, he sorts through the tape, delivering bills to finance people, and processing dozens of personal and business letters mailed from sources of overseas locations. But his main task is logging and forwarding the signature reduction mechanisms, as they are called, passports and state driver's licenses for people who don't exist, and other papers, bills, tax documents, organized membership cards that form the foundation of fake identities. To register and double check the authenticity of his daily take, Darby logs into two databases. One, the Travel and Identity Document Database, the intelligence community's repository of examples of 300,000 genuine, counterfeit, and altered foreign passports and visas. And the other, the Cover Acquisition Management System, a super secret register of false identities where the mechanisms used by clandestine operators are logged. For false identities traveling overseas, Darby and his colleagues also have to alter databases of U.S. immigration and customs to ensure that those performing illicit activities can return to the United States unmolested. For identity verification, Darby's unit works with the secret offices at Homeland Security and the State Department, as well as almost all 50 states, in enrolling authentic mechanisms under false names. A rare picture into this world came in April 2013 when an enterprising reporter at Northwest Public Broadcasting did a story suggesting the scale of this secret program. His report revealed that the state of Washington alone had provided hundreds of valid state driver's licenses in fictitious names to the federal government. The existence of the confidential driver's license program, as it was called, was unknown even to the governor. Before the internet, Darby says, before a local cop or a border guard was connected to central databases in real time, all the operative needed to be undercover was an ID with a genuine photo. These days, however, especially for those operating under deep cover, the so-called legend behind the identity has to match more than just a made-up name. Darby calls it due diligence. The creation of his trail of fake existence, fake birthplaces, and home addresses have to be carefully researched. Fake emails, lives, and social media accounts have to be created, and those existences need to have corresponding friends. Almost every individual unit that operates clandestinely, special operations, intelligence operations, or cyber has a signature reduction section, mostly operated by small contractors conducting due diligence. There they adhere to what Darby calls the 6 principles of signature reduction: credibility, compatibility, realism, supportability, veridity, and compliance. Compliance is a big one, Darby says, especially because of the world that 9/11 created, where checkpoints are common and nefarious activity is more closely scrutinized to keep someone covert for real. And to do so for any period of time requires a time-consuming dance that not only has to tend to someone's operational identity, but also to maintain their real life back home. As Darby explains it, this includes clandestine bill paying, but also working with banks and credit card security departments to look the other way as they search for identity fraud or money laundering. And then signature reduction technicians need to ensure that the real credit scores are maintained, and even real taxes and social security payments are kept up to date so that people can go back to their dormant lives when the signature reduction assignments cease. Darby's unit, originally called the Operational Planning and Travel Intelligence Center, is responsible for overseeing much of this, and to do so, it operates the Pentagon's largest military finance office. But documentation, as important as it is only one piece of the puzzle. Other organizations are responsible for designing and manufacturing the custom disguises and biometric defeat elements to facilitate travel. Darby says this is where all the special access programs are. SAPs, the most secret category of government information, protect the methods used and the clandestine capabilities that exist to manipulate foreign systems and to get around seemingly foolproof safeguards, including fingerprint and facial recognition. Signature reduction is a term of art. Numerous signature reduction SAPs programs with names like Hurricane Fan, Island Hopper, and Peanut Chocolate are administered by a shadowy world of secret organizations that service the clandestine army. The Defense Program Support Activity, Joint Field Support Center, Army Field Support Center, Personnel Resources Development Office, Office of Military Support, Project Cardinals, and the Special Program Office. Befitting how secret this world is, There is no unclassified definition of signature reduction. The Defense Intelligence Agency, which operates the Defense Clandestine Services and the Defense Cover Office, says the signature reduction is a term of art, one that individuals might use to describe operational security, OPSEC, measures for a variety of activities and operations. In response to Newsweek queries that point out dozens of people have used the term to refer to this world, DIA suggests that perhaps the Pentagon can help, but the responsible person there, identified as a DoD spokesperson, says only that as it relates to human operations, meaning human intelligence signature reduction, is not an official term, and that it is used to describe measures taken to protect operations. Another senior former intelligence official, someone who ran an entire agency and asked not to be named because he is not authorized to speak about clandestine operations, says that the signature reduction exists in a twilight between the covert and undercover. The former, defined in law, is subject to presidential approval and officially belongs to the CIA's National Clandestine Service. That latter connotes strictly law enforcement efforts undertaken by people with a badge. And then there is the Witness Protection Program, administered by the U.S. Marshals Service of the Justice Department, which tends to the fake identities and lives of people who have been resettled in exchange for their cooperation with prosecutors and intelligence agencies. The military doesn't conduct covert operations, a senior former official says, and military personnel don't fight undercover. That is, except when they do, either because individuals are assigned, dipped to the CIA, or because certain military organizations, particularly those of the Joint Special Operations Command, operate like the CIA, often alongside them in covert status, where people who depend on each other for their lives don't know each other's real names. Then there are the increasing number of government investigators, military, FBI, Homeland Security, and even state officials who are not undercover per se, but who avail themselves of signature reduction status like fake IDs and fake license plates when they work domestically, particularly when they engage in extreme vetting of American citizens of Arab, South Asian, and increasingly African background who have applied for security clearances. Get smart. In May 2013, in an almost comical incident more reminiscent of Get Smart than skilled spying, Moscow ordered a U.S. Embassy third secretary by the name of Ryan Fogley to leave the country, releasing photos of Fogley wearing an ill-fitting blonde wig and carrying an odd collection of seemingly amateurish paraphernalia: 4 pairs of sunglasses, a street mat, a compass, a flashlight, a Swiss Army knife, and a cell phone. So old, one article said, it looked like it had been on this earth for at least a decade. There's the photo of that stuff. The international news media had a field day. Many retired CIA people decrying the decline of tradecraft, most of the commentary opining how we'd move on from the old war of wigs and fake rocks, a reference to Great Britain admitting just a year earlier that indeed it was the owner of a fake rock and its hidden communications device, another discovery of Russian intelligence in Moscow. 6 years later, another espionage case hits the news, this time when a jury sent former American military intelligence officer Kevin Patrick Mallory for 20 years in prison for conspiring to sell secrets to China. There was nothing particularly unique about Mallory's case for prosecution, making it its own show of presenting the jury with a collection of wigs and fake mustaches looking like Halloween costumes. The whole thing seemingly another funny episode of clumsy disguise. And yet, says Brenda Conley, not her real name, one would be naive to laugh too hard, for both cases provided a peek into the new tricks of the trade and the extreme secrecy that hides them. Connolly started her engineering career as the Directorate of Science and Technology at the CIA and now works for a small defense contractor that produces the gizmos. Think Q in the James Bond movies, she says, for signature reduction operations. And the ancient Nokia phone carried by Ryan Fogley, she says, was nothing of the sort. The innocuous outsides concealing what she calls a covert communications device inside. Similarly, entered in evidence in the Mallory case was a Samsung phone given to him by Chinese intelligence that was so sophisticated that even when the FBI cloned it electronically, they could not find a hidden partition used to store secrets, and one that Mallory ultimately had to reveal to them. Lost in the spy versus spy theater of both cases were often clues of modern signature reduction. Connolly says Fogley also carried a RFID shield, a radio frequency identification blocking pouch intended to prevent electronic tracking, and Mallory had vials of fake blood provided by China. Connolly would not reveal what it would be used for. Like many people in this world, Connolly is a connoisseur and a curator. She can talk for hours about the broadcasts that used to go out from the Soviet Union, but also were transmitted from where Warrenton, Virginia, female voices reciting random numbers and passages from books that agents around the world would pick up on their shortwave radios and match to pre-arranged codes. But then internet cafes and online backdoors became the clandestine channels of choice for covert communications, largely replacing shortwave until surveillance technologies, especially in autocratic countries, caught up and intelligence agencies acquired an ability to not only detect and intercept internet activity, but also to intercept every keystroke of activity on a remote keyboard. That ushered in today's world of covert communications, or CovCom, as insiders call it. There are very special encryption devices seen in the Fogley-Mallory cases, but also dozens of different burst mode transmitters and receivers secreted in everyday objects like fake rocks. All an agent or operator needs to activate communications with these CovComs, in some cases, is simply to walk by a target receiver, a building, or a fake rock, and the clandestine messages are encrypted and transmitted back to special watch centers. And who do you think implants those devices? Connolly asks rhetorically. Military guys, special ops guys working to support even more secretive operations. Connolly talks about heated fabrics that make soldiers invisible to thermal detection, electric motorcycles that can silently operate in the roughest terrain, even how tens of feet of wires are sewn into native clothing, the South Asian shalar kameez, the soldiers themselves then becoming walking receivers, able to intercept nearby low-power radios and even cell phone signals. Fake hands, fake faces. Wigs, covert communications, fake rocks in our world of electronic everything, where everything becomes a matter of record, where you can't enter a parking garage without the license plate being recorded, where you can't check in for a flight or a hotel without a government-issued ID, where you can't use a credit card without the location being captured. How can biometrics can be defeated? How can someone get past fingerprint readers? In 99 out of 100 cases, the answer is there is no need to. Most signature reduction soldiers travel under real names, exchanging operational identities only once on the ground where they operate. Or they infiltrate across borders in places like Pakistan and Yemen, conducting the most dangerous missions. These signature reduction missions are the most highly sensitive and involve close-in intelligence collection or the use of miniaturized enemy tracking devices, each existing in their own special access programs. Missions that are so sensitive that they have to be personally approved by the Secretary of Defense. For 1%, though, for those who have to make it through passport control under false identities, there are various biometrics defeat systems, some physical and some electronic. One such program was alluded to in a little notice document dump published by WikiLeaks in early 2017 and called Vault 7. Over 8,000 classified CIA tools used in the covert world of electronic spying and hacking. It is called Express Lane, where U.S. intelligence has embedded malware into foreign biometrics and watch list systems, allowing American cyber spies to steal foreign data. An IT wizard working for WikiLeaks in Berlin says the code with Express Lane suggests that the United States can manipulate these databases. Imagine for a moment that someone is going through a passport control. He says, hesitant to use his real name because of the fear of indictment in the United States. NSA or the CIA is tasked to corrupt, change the data on the day of the covert asset goes through, and then switch it back. It is not possible. Another source pointed to a small rural North Carolina company in the signature reduction industry, mostly in the clandestine collection and communications field. In the workshop and training facility where they teach operators how to fabricate secret listening devices into everyday objects, they are at the cutting edge, or so their promotional materials say, a repository for molding and casting special painting and sophisticated aging techniques. The quiet company can transform any object, including a person, as they do in Hollywood, a silicone face appliance. sculpted to perfectly alter someone's looks. They can age, change gender, and increase body mass, as one classified contract says, and they can change fingerprints using a silicone sleeve that is so snugly fit over a hand that it can't be detected, embedding altered fingerprints and even impregnated with the oils found in real skin. Asked whether the appliance is effective, one source who has gone through the training laughs, "If I tell you, I'll have to kill you." In real life, identity theft, mostly by criminals intent on profit, remains an epidemic that affects everyone. But for those in the intelligence and counterterrorism worlds, the enemy is also actively engaged in efforts to compromise personal information. In 2015, the Islamic State posted the names, photos, and addresses of over 1,300 U.S. military personnel, instructing supporters to target and kill the identified individuals. The FBI says that the release was followed by suspected Russian hackers who masqueraded as members of ISIS and threatened military families through Facebook. "We know everything about you, your husband, and your children," one menacing message said. Counterintelligence and OPSEC officials began a large-scale effort to inform those affected, but also to warn military personnel and their families to better protect their personal information on social media. The next year, ISIS released 8,318 target names, their largest ever release, until it was topped by 8,785 names in 2017. It was revealed that military personnel sharing location information in their fitness devices were apparently revealing the locations of sensitive operations merely by jogging and sharing their data. The rapid development of new and innovative information technologies enhances the quality of our lives, but also poses potential challenges to operational security and force protection, the U.S. Central Command said in a statement at the time to the Washington Post. Then came the DNA scare, when Admiral John Richardson, the chief of naval operations, warned military personnel and their families to stop using at-home ancestry DNA test kits. "Be careful who you send your DNA to," Richardson said, warning that scientific advancements would be able to exploit the information, creating more and more targeted biological weapons in the future. And indeed, in 2019, the Pentagon officially advised military personnel to steer clear of popular DNA services. Exposing sensitive genetic information to outside parties poses personal and operational risk to service members, said the memo first reported by Yahoo News. "We're still in the infancy of our transparent world," says the retired senior officer, cautioning against imaging that there is some identity gap similar to the bomber gap of the Cold War. "We're winning this war, including on the cyber side, even if secrecy about what we are doing makes the media portrayal of the Russians again look like they are 10 feet tall." He admits that processing big data in the future will likely impinge on everyone's clandestine operations, but he says the benefits to society, even narrowly in just making terrorist activity and travel that much more difficult, outweigh the difficulties created for military operational security. The officer calls the secrecy legitimate, but says that the Defense Department leadership has dropped the ball in recognizing the big picture. The military services should be asking more questions about the ethics, the propriety, and even legality of soldiers being turned into spies and assassins, and what this means for the future. Still, the world of signature reduction keeps growing. Evidence says the retired officer that modern life is not as transparent as most of us think.
Holy shit, that was long.
Tell that to my tongue and my lips.
When he said he was going to read it, I'm like, yeah, okay, 2 minutes. Dude, that was like 15 minutes. You read a book. But there was a lot to break down there. And what we're talking about here is the Ghost Army people. Now, when we talk about signature reduction and what the DOD is doing, this isn't just one group that's working, 60,000 people that's working for one organization or group. This is multiple different SAP programs. One thing that you have to understand is that in these special access programs or unacknowledged special access programs, whether it's an ISR operation or whether it's, going out there and gathering SIGINT or on the ground operations, infiltrating Antifa. Oh, wait, hold on. Didn't we say something in 2018 with the Q boards? And what we said on this is that you don't have to worry about Antifa because we've already infiltrated them with special operation forces. Huh. Man, I swear we said that. I swear we've been talking about that. But this is the type of programs that would come about. Like under special access programs with the guy who led the special access program division at the Pentagon, which was at the time Lieutenant General Dan Kane, who's now the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, under Donald Trump. As in, we've infiltrated a lot of the deep state. We've infiltrated a lot of these organizations through SAP and USAP programs. There was one interesting part in that article that you talked about, Brenda Connolly, that's not her real name, that she worked for the Directorate of Science and Technology at the CIA. She's talked about Q stuff. That's actually the one part of the government, the CIA, that controls USAPs, and specifically those in the development of exotic technologies and the reverse engineering of alien technologies, which is now in the news feeds and being talked about. So what she was actually talking about and what she's actually doing is running a lot of those SAP programs that are dealing with the reverse engineering of those programs or craft retrieval programs. Although she's not going to come out there and say that. So these have a lot of different variations of how they can be utilized. But I want people to know out there is that there's patriots that have been working for a very long time that are integrated into this infrastructure and this web of what's happening clandestinely around the world. And that we just had some crazy news come out the last 2 days. The crazy news that came out the last 2 days, and there's a lot of people, even patriots that you know, who don't believe it, who are very skeptical on it, who are saying that this can't be real. The reason a lot of them are saying it can't be real is because it shows a different story than many of us believe. But I think that it's a good point to kind of transition into this, because if you watched Lara Logan's interview with Gary Bernstein and such, one of the things you learned is that the Trump administration in 2020 withheld this information and evidence from him. Dan Ratcliffe as the DNI at the time withheld the China information, didn't release it until January 17th from him. You had Cipollone in the general counsel in the White House who wouldn't allow this information to get out. You had Sidney Powell and Giuliani trying to get this information to him. They got ejected from the White House. You had congressmen and senators who were well aware of this information, but never did anything with it. And even going into the 2024 election, it wasn't until a month before the 2024 election that these people went to Mar-a-Lago. They briefed Susie Wiles, who was an election denier. She didn't believe that the 2020 election was stolen. And she was very skeptical to meet with these gentlemen. She looked at the evidence, and she had Elon Musk actually get briefed on it. Elon Musk put it through the AI, and he came out and said, it's real, it's very real, and confirmed the evidence for them. What is this evidence? It's the evidence of how the 2020 election was actually stolen. Who were the people that brought this evidence about? That's the crazy part. See, it was a former CIA agent, a lot of undercover operatives that have worked for the DEA and various sources for the CIA that have turned coat from Venezuela, from the Maduro regime, and have found sanctuary in the United States of America and blew the whistle. Basically, people that worked for Smartmatic or the team of clandestine operators that stole elections in live real time in Venezuela, they found their way over here. Who were the 2 points of contacts that got this to the Trump administration and ran counter operations against this group specifically in the Venezuelan election in July of 2024, and then again in the November 5th election of Donald Trump, ensuring that the Serbia servers for this rogue group were shut down? Patrick Byrne and General Flynn. And Patrick Byrne spent over $80 million of his own money over the last 4 to 5 years getting this information out, learning about how this happened. General Flynn helped to run these operations in the context of the ground game, of getting people informed, getting the information to Donald Trump, running the intelligence up the ladder. And at every level, they found hurdles, even when Trump wasn't president. Even today, in the White House, they found hurdles. This information is now newly released. It is out in the world. We have Donald Trump just yesterday posting this on his Truth Social account. Now you can understand why the Democrats are wrapping this up, why they're saying what they're saying. why they're scared. Trump says we must all focus our energy and might on election fraud, and he posts Laura Logan's interview with Gary Bernstein and Ralph Pazuello. Ralph and Gary explain how America's enemies, foreign and domestic, are stealing the republic. They dissect the controversial involvement in Smartmatic and U.S. election systems and explore the swirling allegations of manipulation and fraud. The discussion probes deep into electoral malfeasance, questioning the integrity of the very systems that uphold our republic. This is a thorough examination. This is huge, guys. Now, why this is interesting is because Alpha and I have known about this for well over a year. I know, it's crazy. And we've told everybody, but nobody really listened or believed us. And the reason we knew...
They said, these guys are crazy.
the reason we knew is because of this interview right here with Patrick Byrne. And I'll tell everybody the story.
Well, play it first.
Okay.
And then tell the story.
Going back to the 2016 election, these people steal elections and they make sure that they win when they steal these elections. How did Hillary lose?
Trump overwhelmed the algorithm. They were prepared for him to win. They were prepared for him to maybe win big. He won bigger than they were even prepared for.
So too big to rig in 2016.
Too big to rig. And that's kind of what happened this time. Well, something disrupted. They had a rig. I'm not going to go into too much detail. They had a rig planned. They have 15 different cheating techniques. They had 15 different cheating techniques. I'll put it this way. After I spent 2 years doing the America Project with General Flynn as my director and helping spawn this nationwide movement. And that's really, I gave away almost all my fortune, frankly, in the first 2 years after the fake election in 2020 to every constitutional sheriff's group, every election integrity group, Frederick Douglass Society, getting blacks to return to their correct party, their home party, the Republican Party, every group of moms standing up against LGBT ideology. And I was like the angel money and the venture capital money that funded 100 of these groups around the country to get this movement going. And General Flynn knows movement warfare and knows about movements. And it's all. But then I went overseas, and I've been overseas for 2 months. And I might as well say what I've been doing is I've been hunting that story on Venezuela. And I've put together the entire story, and this really is all Venezuelan mafia, which is the Venezuelan government. And Venezuela is where mafia turns into nation state. The government is the mafia. In fact, it's called the cartel de los soles, cartel of the suns, in reference to the generals don't have stars, they have suns. So the capos of the cartel are the generalissimos of the army. The mafia is the government. And they came to power under Hugo Chavez in 99, and they seized two things: the oil industry, because that's where the money is. It's the biggest oil reserves in the world. And they have since looted $4 trillion while their own people starve and cannibalize each other, literally. They seized $4 trillion. But how do you keep yourself from being dislodged? You seize the election industry and the election council. That election council created a type of software or technology package that you could rig elections on. They commercialized it. Their commercial front is a company called Smartmatic. And then Smartmatic, their package, became the core of all the systems of all the main election systems in the world. I won't get in trouble by mentioning any brands, but those brands are really just name tags on what is really Smartmatic technology. So that's taken over the world. And that's what I spent the last 2 years on. And they had a plan to rig this election. And basically what they do is, this is my hotel room key and this is my bottle cap. If the plan is to have bottle cap beat hotel room key, they've got 14 different techniques on the ground of how you cheat. And it's all the ones we know about and some people don't know about, but of like getting illegals registered to vote, then stuffing the ballots in their names. The illegals don't have to vote. They just have to get registered to vote, and then they stuff ballots. There's 14 different things like that. But at the end of the day, they have in Serbia an office where they, at 7:01 p.m. when the polls shut down, They get on the computer, they see how much is left, and then they just jam it. And they just jam it. And the way they do that is they create there's a back door into every county that use their equipment has a back door. They come in from Serbia through a VPN, and they create within that county's election management system, a virtual machine. And a virtualization is you create like a virtual machine in the RAM, not on a hard drive, but it's in the software of a machine. So there's like some virtualization is something that came around in the last 2 decades, and you're creating sort of a second computer within the computer, and it operates like it's got its own hard drive and everything, but it's really all just software and RAM memory. They manipulate whatever results they want. They can make that hard drive sing hallelujah if they want. They can do anything. Then they just collapse the virtual machine and they withdraw the connection. You ain't going to find a trace of nothing. You can audit that. You can audit all the software. You're not going to find anything. Only if you do a forensic audit and take an image of the hard drive and go through the bits and bytes, you're going to find, even there, you won't find much because it all happens in the RAM, but you're going to find, this is what happened. Do you know about the Tina Peters case in Colorado? Mm-hmm. This is why they lost their mind, because she got a forensic image and of the hard drive that was used, and a computer science professor studied it and said, gee, something very strange happened in this middle of this election, where they created a new database. They wiped out the old one. They did this and that, but I don't see how they did it. There must be some hidden script. Well, I've learned how they did it. And this has been a 2-year, basically a private espionage effort where we got all the people, we got everything figured out, and even how they did this in the office, they did this from in Serbia. But they planned on doing this election night out of Serbia, but something seems to have disrupted their plans.
Now, do you think that they tried? Okay. So he also goes on to talk about how in July of that year, he did the same thing to the Venezuelan election. So if you remember, Raimundo was running against Maduro and Raimundo won. And then people around the world were not recognizing Maduro as the president. And then 2 days later, they suspended the election, then Maduro won, and people around the world were saying, no, Maduro didn't win. Spain was the first country to come out there and say Maduro did win, and they did recognize Maduro. Why? Because Venezuela controls Spain. So he goes in to say that the first part of the operation they ran against Venezuela, and it worked.
Now, real quick, before you continue, I just want to let people know, sometimes it's just divine intervention, because if you were watching the Alpha Warrior show before DefCon tonight, you saw the conclusion of the Tina Peters 3-part saga. And if tonight was part 3, but if you watched part 2, which was last week, you saw that we had Mark and Sean on. It was with me and CanCon and Ash. Mm-hmm. And what you heard Byrne talk about, the image that Tina Peters took, Mark brought that up on the screen for all of us to see. And that back door that Byrne described, Mark showed you and Sean showed you where it was, where these folders were, where it showed. No, they literally showed where the access points were. So I would say at a minimum, you might want to watch part 2, but it is the long explanation of what Patrick Byrne was talking about in that specific moment right there.
Right. And then on top of this, after 2020, they knew a lot of this in 2020, but they didn't know how it was done. They knew the actors and the people involved, but they didn't know how it was done. What's interesting is that after 2020, Patrick Byrne, Flynn, they start going out there to uncover this with this private espionage operation. And one of the things they find is the IP addresses. Now, there just happened to be an anonymous Japanese account. Anonymous Japanese dude on X, on Twitter, that was monitoring all of the PCAP data occurring on the night of the election.
Oh, is this the Good Samaritan guy?
Yeah, this is the Good Samaritan guy. He was publishing it on X, and they asked for the raw data, and he charged them $15 in Bitcoin and handed them all the IP addresses that included the traffic from Venezuela to Serbia, from Serbia into every state's election system. That's when they actually got the information. Now, this is interesting because after this interview, I wake up the next day, I published it that night, right? and my phone's ringing off the hook. Unknown number. I pick it up. It's Patrick Byrne. He's like, Josh. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you didn't post that video yet, did you? I'm like, yeah, I did. He goes, ah, shit. He goes, I might have said some things there that I wasn't supposed to tell people, but it's out now. It's out of the bag. Everybody knows. That's good. And we talked for a few more minutes, but I want people to understand that that was an exclusive to what we're seeing right now.
You left out a funny part of that story. Josh called me and he's like, hey, did you post your video? I said, yeah, we talked about it already. And then he explained what you guys are hearing.
Then I called Alpha and I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, because I don't think Alpha and I truly understood what Patrick was telling us, because there was 2 interviews. It was first Flynn. It was Flynn, Patrick, Flynn. And there was so much in both of those interviews, because Flynn, he laid out the groundwork of his background, of how he was in Cuba, how he was in Central America, how he fought these same organizations that are now in control when he was in special operations.
That was such a great conversation.
Oh, it was. Yeah. And I recommend people go watch that dual interview. But now I want you to listen to, okay, Greg and Ralph talk about this. Talk about how this operates.
They know where they can find the dead people that they need to get certain votes. They plan this, as Gary said before.
It's meticulous.
It's meticulous. These guys are experts at this. It's not just a few guys in a back room. You're talking about hundreds of statisticians and engineers, and they work it, for a year.
And mathematicians,
right,
and hackers.
Right.
We had a map out of Colorado when we were talking to our engineers, the guys that designed it and stole the elections. And we looked at it and we said, look, it's Denver here and Colorado Springs, all the Democrats, and they looked at us in pity,
Yeah.
Like, here's something. I said, no, we just go to every one place where Trump wins 70-30 and he's winning 68, or we shave, and every other place. We don't go near a Democratic place, because when they want to do recounts, they're going to go to the Democratic places. They don't realize we shaved in every other committee. We know every other county. We know how to do this. And then in each of those things where they shave with a different technique in each one of those. So if you found something in one county, there's no continuity around the state that way.
So this is why the Republicans are so much at fault, because they have the power and the ability to show in their areas. They can allow access to the machines. They can allow access to the source code. They can allow
But they thought we just won by 35%. Okay, we didn't win by 38. Yeah. We won by 35. So no one's going to call to that they should have, right?
Because everyone says, well, we expected the Republicans to win by a majority. Well, it was a little less than we thought it was going to be, but they still won. So, no harm, no foul. But the evidence of the fraud is right there, and they could show it.
They never looked at it.
So that's one. So that is telling you exactly how they do it. They don't go to Democrat strongholds and manipulate the vote. They go to Republican strongholds. Listen to this one. This one is even better. And what you are getting here is you are getting what Patrick Byrne was talking to us about a year ago, being fully disclosed and transparent.
He's practically half dead.
Well, but his son now is taking his place.
Yeah, his son used to have
his son is taking his place
in the White House during the
and
Biden
he's been left in
administration.
operation to proliferate his tactics. He's now the Knight Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Tides Foundation. He's got the Open Society Foundation has its own university. They have global networks. They have policy
determined
foundations.
To change America, the nature of America,
the world.
Yeah,
they are determined to do that, and we have to be here to ensure that democracy and our republic survive.
Well, and especially the republic, right? Because democracy without the republic is a tyranny of the majority in any country. That's why democracy without the republic fails time and time and time again.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they're attacking it all over the world. That's why they control elections in 72 countries. And they're using the same tactics in democracies all over the world.
So
Look what's
72
going on
countries,
in Europe.
the UK?
Yeah.
France?
Well, look, it's headquartered
Germany?
in the UK. They used it against the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
It's sitting in London. Its headquarters, SGO, Smartmatic is sitting in London.
Oh, because Lord Malik Brown.
Oh, he's
was,
part of the
He
problem.
was the head of Smartmatic.
Malik Brown,
and
who was Kofi Annan's deputy at the United Nations years ago, was their guy to give their brand acceptance globally.
Right.
He knows what it was doing.
And then
Well, of course he knows because he was on the board of Open Society Foundation.
That's exactly right.
And then after they successfully stole the 2020 election, Soros brought him over from London and made him president of Open Society.
Got a promotion.
That's right.
Yeah, he rewarded him for that.
Yep.
So, okay, take me to election night 2020 because I've investigated that. I have some ideas of what was going on, but I mean, are these masterminds of election fraud? Where's Maduro? Where are the Iranians?
The Iranian foreign minister was actually in 2020 in Havana, not in Havana, in Caracas.
Which is the capital of Venezuela.
Was in Caracas with Maduro, watching them steal the election from Donald Trump and having a great time.
Who else was there?
Just him is all we know.
Remember when Iran said they're going to get revenge on Donald Trump for the killing of Soleimani? You remember when I went through this whole article connecting, it was called Watch the Water on Venezuela, okay? And what I did is I showed Venezuela's connections to Chinese money, Hamas, Houthis, Iran, IRGC is training Venezuelan soldiers, right? Now, why does this get really, really interesting? Well, then you learn that Smartmatic, a Venezuelan company, which is directly connected to these organizations, was ran by a guy by the name of Lord Mark Malloch Brown from 2014 to 2020. Now, Lord Mark Malloch Brown just happened to be the head guy at the Open Society Foundations during that time. Now, Doge, when Elon Musk came in, they did some investigation and they found this program called CEPS, C-E-P-E-S. Have you heard of CEPS yet?
Nope.
$6.9 billion in 10 years of taxpayer dollar through USAID to CEPS. CEPS is an NGO. It's a marketing arm for Smartmatic, ran by Lord Mark Malloch Brown. Basically, $6.9 billion in 10 years to go out there and lobby the states to accept Smartmatic technology as their voting technology. And that was paid for by USAID and taxpayer dollars. Okay? Now, I know, pissed off, right? So just the other day, Monday, Trump declares the Maduro regime, the cartel de los soles, right? The same one that Patrick Byrne was just talking about, a foreign terrorist organization. This is the key. This is why Flynn's saying, are you ready? And so it begins, right? So I show that was, and so it begins. The next day, Trump initiates an executive order to look into the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization. They didn't declare the whole Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terrorist organization.
Just factions.
They declared factions of it, and they're going to look at the money. Now, this is interesting because a week prior, Governor Abbott of Texas declared the Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR, C-A-I-R, a foreign terrorist organization. Okay? Now, why is that interesting? Because Laura Samsur...
I want to cover something too on the factions real quick before you go. And this is just speculation. I don't have hard evidence to support this. The second the information leaked out that it was coming down the pipeline that Trump was going to declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, you immediately saw social media saying this is going to be an attack on the religious freedom of Muslims. It's my speculation of how I would do it. If you only go after factions, then what you're saying is this is not an attack on Muslims. This is not an attack on Islam. This is an attack on people within those institutions that are hiding under the cover of a religion. And that's who we're going after. So by not going after all of them, he allows himself that out to defeat those arguments that we already see them trying to attack him with.
Right. So now going back into this. So the Muslim Brotherhood, various factions, and then I came out and said the federal government's next move is going to be declared CAIR, a foreign terrorist organization. Now, why is this interesting? How many people in FAGA are out there screaming at Donald Trump because he met with Mamdani? And I said, it looks like Mamdani was humbled in the backdrop. Do you remember last week when I showed that video of Linda Sarsour, who is one of the founders, one of the head people at CAIR, who's saying that CAIR's political action campaign is the one who funded Mamdani. And now Trump goes out there and declares, so Abbott goes out there, declares CAIR and Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organizations. Then Trump makes the move, factions of Muslim Brotherhood. The next one's going to be CARE. We have Mamdani that visits. Trump and him in a private conversation. Mamdani comes out, looks humbled. He looks humbled because I'm pretty sure Trump showed him the paperwork. Now, why does this matter, and how does this connect with Venezuela and everything that we're talking about, and Lord Malik Brown and all this stuff? Well, we know George Soros, with USAID money, funded Black Lives Matter, various different NGOs associated with the LGBTQ and the trans movement. One connection that people fail to understand is that George Soros has a direct connection, the Open Society Foundation, to the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE. So here's the key, is that Soros Open Society Foundation was moving through NGOs into CARE, C-A-I-R, that were funneled to Mamdani and other Muslim candidates. Now, do you remember a few episodes ago, I laid out how the foundation of the Muslim Brotherhood actually came about?
I do.
There was a gentleman back in the 1970s and 60s and 70s by the name of Zaid Abidine, who was part of the Islamic Council, who helped to fund the original Muslim Brotherhood. This man just happens to have a daughter by the name of Huma Abedin, who was a chief of staff to Hillary Clinton, and then was married to Anthony Weiner, his handler. And then Anthony Weiner's laptop, all that happened. They divorced. Well, she just got remarried.
And hold on, just real quick. And all that happened is a particular file known as the insurance file.
Correct. And now she is married to Alex Soros. So do you understand that what Trump is doing is circling the Soros network and Soros money? What you are witnessing right now is why you declare these organizations foreign terrorist organizations. It's not really to have the authorized use of military force. The Navy's there for a deterrent aspect, so they don't engage in warfare here. I'm going to get into that part in a second about the people that are here in our country. But it's about the Treasury. It's the power that he gives Scott Bessent through those executive orders to begin pulling the bank records and documentation to look into those organizations and tie it back from terrorist funding into proper organizations to USAID, to the George Soros Foundation, because it's a RICO case.
Indeed it is.
Now,
indeed it is.
I love this. Now, we talked about that one.
Got me fired up, bro.
Well, I love getting people fired up.
And I want the audience to understand something. From the inception of DefCon, we never planned out a timeline, nor did we ever script a show. We'd call each other, text, hey, I want to bring up this, I want to bring up that. Hey, this is a topic I think everybody's concerned with, and we'll address that. But if you have been following DefCon from even before episode 1, the premiere episode, you've seen how this entire timeline has been laid out right into what we're about to breach with the month of December. Like, right. I'll tell you guys, and I know right now time is something that we all value and we don't have a lot of it. If you haven't watched DefCon from the beginning, I would, because you're going to have you will have a perfect picture of what has happened, how it has happened, and why we're here. And we're not going to let the cat out of the bag, but stay tuned for a very important interview.
Yep.
In a very short window.
So Alpha, do you remember when we were on DefCon and I was talking about Hakeem Jeffries and the sombrero?
I do.
And then everybody's like, oh, it's so funny. I go, no, it's not funny. He's telling you something. Listen right here, because this is why you had saw sombreros on Republicans and Democrats.
There are people in our intelligence community and our diplomatic community that are paid agents of the Cubans and the Venezuelan regime. We have been penetrated at a level never witnessed in our history. That
way farther than happened during the
Cuban
Cold War.
intelligence service and the Venezuelan, using Venezuelan resources. Not only were they collecting intelligence on the United States, they established diplomatic and intelligence dominance over the United States during the past 20 years. Dominance. They had so many sources in so many sides in both political parties. Not just the Democrats, the Republican Party and political operators that are operating right now, so many of them are on their payroll.
Do you know
that
who
is
they
shocking.
are?
We know some of them are. Yes, we know who they are.
These American traitors?
We know who they are. And guess what? The government knows who they are too now.
A couple of them are in jail.
So why did they have sombreros on? They just told you. Now,
Mark.
This is probably the most important. This is the last video, but this is the most important one. This is why we have a massive U.S. Navy presence in Venezuela right now. And what you're about to see here is, so I wrote this post. Watch the Water, a few months ago. Venezuela, China, Iran cartels proxy war begins. For decades, U.S. intelligence congressional testimony warned. The island of Margarita, Venezuela, Hezbollah, Hamas training homes, IRGC ties, Venezuelan officers trained in Iran. I wasn't joking when I wrote this. Okay? We have sources. We have people we use. We do research. We understand what we're talking about to a large degree. We might not have all the details completely correct, but we have a great outline of what we're talking about. What I laid out in this X post is spot on why the U.S. Navy is currently in Venezuela. Now, listen to what Gary says here.
The United States and had 5,000 people falling into 20 different offices to conduct a criminal insurgency in America.
And this is just to remind people, this is TDA, Tren de Aragua, that made such big news before the 2024 election. And Maduro actually didn't just round up ordinary people. He went into the prisons.
He took them out of the prisons.
Yeah. Took the most violent criminals that Venezuela had.
They had a history.
Trained them.
They had a history in Venezuela with a group called the Pranas. And the Pranas were people that lived in the prisons. They kept them in the high security areas, and they had guns and their girlfriends with them and everything. And they would go out and murder people. They were government assassins run by the head of the prison system. And then the trained El Aragua guys were in a prison called El Tocaron. There was a revolt. I know the general that went there and then suppressed it and killed 17 of them. But when Maduro found out that they were so well organized and so violent, he actually installed a telephone there and started talking to them from the presidential palace. They organized these guys, and then they gave them 6 weeks of intelligence training, a group of them, 300 of them, deployed them into America, and then sent 5,000 behind them to create a criminal insurgency in America.
Which is a foreign military invasion.
This was during the Biden administration. I told the Department of Homeland Security people overseas, I had to go out of the United States because I was outside of America anyway at that point, trying to avoid being arrested by the FBI for our election efforts. Went to a group of Homeland Security guys, gave them the information. They said, we can't do anything with it. The administration won't let us act on this. They waited till the day that Donald Trump was elected. The day Trump was elected, I got a phone call within 24 hours. Mr. Bernson, we have the report you gave us. Would you introduce us to the source? I said, in minutes. 15 minutes later, I called the source, married him to that case officer, and he started providing him information.
Okay. Now does it all make sense? That was just Tren de Aragua. That was not the cartel army and the mercenary army. That was not the Mexican cartels. That was not the Northern African militant groups, Taliban, Hamas, Houthis, ISIS. That was not the millions of Chinese military-age males. See, China moved the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Chinese military-age males over the southern border through Mexico and California, because they were going to be the cleanup crew after the toppling of U.S. cities. They were going to walk in there, be the cleanup crew, and take over the land, because that was part of the deal that they had with Venezuela. Now, what we just heard there was that you had Tren de Aragua trained in intelligence operations. Guess where they were trained? Iran, through the IRGC. And so he talks about the Biden administration. He went to the Department of Homeland Security during the Biden administration and said, hey, this is what's going on. And they said, we can't touch it. They won't let us. Now you find out later why. The reason why is because guess what? The Biden administration was giving these people $5,000 in cell phones and putting them up at hotels and then giving them transportation throughout the country to various different sanctuary cities. The Biden administration was in direct collusion with Venezuela, with the cartels, with the Soros organization, with China, and moving in on a direct violent coup in the United States of America, a color revolution that was meant to rise up in the streets and kill Americans and take over our country.
Let me jump in there for a second, because with the cartels, and I happen to know a little something, about some gangs, in a prior life when I was a gang detective here in Southern California, where we investigated Leme, where we investigated MS-13, where and all these other different Mexican gangs that are down here. And for those, whether people that are work corrections or work law enforcement, you understand that there is a system that even follows into the Department of Corrections. It's why you see, Mexican gangs are violent against each other out in the streets. Black gangs are violent against each other out in the streets. White gangs are violent against each other out in the streets. But then when they get to the prisons, all that is put by the side. And then there's these, the collaboration, the Mexicans are together, the blacks are together, the whites are together, and outside of narcotics and things like that, it's fight to the death type of stuff. However, for those that don't know, these Mexican street gangs, and this is not something that's isolated to just California. They take orders from the mafia, and depending on what part of the country at, whether it's La Familia, if you're going up north, or Nuestra Familia, or like I said, down south, we have, M. However, they aren't the all powerful either. You got to go even further south, whether you get into the Sinaloa or whether you get into Juarez, whether you get into the Michoacana. These are the cartels that are coming out of Central America, of Mexico. And these are the ones that exert more of that influence. Well, if you're going to get the cartels from South America to deploy all these assets into America, you see all the different gang and cartels that live in that land space between. And so one of the things that law enforcement probably didn't pick up on right away, I'm sure they've picked up on it by now, is when, and a lot of you, especially if you lived in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, some of these southern states, if you've seen a drop in gang crime, especially with the Mexican gangs, you'd be like, well, that's a good thing. And that is, however, is it a good thing because it reflects the proactive work of your local law enforcement? Because if you haven't seen a rise in proactive policing, then why is there a drop in gang crime? And that's because they've gone directions and orders that we need to cool things down. We don't want you guys generating crimes where you're going to be on a wire. We don't want you guys generating crimes where there's going to be active surveillance, because they are getting ready to deploy something different, which paints the picture right into what you're talking about here. And this is the stuff that Trump was aware of. This goes all the way back to that conversation we said of why do we have such a large military presence at the southern border? And me and Josh said, it's not just for immigration and drugs.
Has nothing to do with it. It's about the cartel armies that were meant to come over the border so there was a go signal that was going to be I think it was the No Kings protest, but we shut that down. And that what was going to happen is that these sleeper cells, Iranian, Hezbollah, Unit 910, Hamas, Taliban, you got Tren de Aragua, they were all going to go active. And you're going to have thousands of active shooters in one city at a time, which would overwhelm police, overwhelm National Guard. You would actually need the military in there. Why do you have 20,000 troops at the southern border? Because after they took out the states, the cities, and got the command and control of them, that's when the cartels and Chinese would come up from the southern border as the other Chinese deployed throughout the states that were already implemented there. So the 20,000 troops at the southern border was a deterrent from that movement forward, but also instantly deployable anywhere in the United States of America within just a matter of hours from Texas. Now, why we back that up with 8,500 Marines in Puerto Rico? The same logic. Instantly deployable anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere in a matter of hours. It's the ultimate deterrent of what Trump has done. And don't think that being in the Caribbean is just for Venezuela. It's for Central America. It's for Mexico.
Trump, they asked Trump a statement this past week.
Yep.
Sir, how do you feel about the Department of War bombing narco terrorists in Mexico? I'm good with it. Yeah, if that's how they're going to get rid of it, I'm for it. Why? He was letting them know, we know you're collaborating here. We know you have a presence here, referring here being Mexico. and we will kill you.
And so it's also, by the way, I don't think a lot of people picked up on this. That was also a warning to Xi in China, because they've embedded Chinese special forces units within the Mexican cartels. That's who's actually doing a lot of their training, supplying them with uniforms, weapons, and gear. So someone asked a little while ago, is like, there's got to be some connection to the Jews to all of this. And funny that you said that, because when you trace the bank accounts of the cartel of the Soros, it actually goes back to Israel, and that their bank accounts are in Israel. But what happened is that when authorities went into Israel, they immediately relinquished the bank accounts, and we had no idea, because this is how the dark money channels operated, and they actually handed over everything. But on the other side is the Israeli weapon manufacturing supplies the majority of the weapons for these areas. So just keep that in mind. It's not like direct involvement, but it's there.
And if you've been following at all the Operation Gladio series that I do with Colonel Towner, you have seen how you have what Josh has talked about, the weapons manufacturing that is played into South America. You've also seen how you have the Israeli intelligence that has played into some of the coups that have taken place in South America. So there is that tie there. However, I will always tell people this too, is, we've all at least seen one magic show, whether it was in person or whether it was on TV. And the one thing that you've always learned after you watched one is when the magician is showing you this hand, you always want to look at the one behind his hand. And if I was a deep state, evil, sinister person, I would have everybody focused on one group, so they never look at the other group that truly controls the chessboard. So if you think that all this ends at the little country that starts with an I, then you haven't solved it. You've gone and played.
That's right. So there's a lot of controversy out there about Candace Owens and the things that she's saying. And people are like, well, how the hell do you go from Venezuela and all? Because it's all integrated together. Now she's saying that Macron basically is trying to assassinate her. General Flynn has actually came out and posted on this, saying that there's actually some evidence supporting this. Other people are saying that there's some evidence supporting this. Why? It goes back to something at post-World War II out of Nazi Germany known as Project Monarch. And that one of the things that I've talked about is when Q said follow the wives, this was actually a German program that morphed into MK Ultra and Project Monarch and out of the Tavistock Institute. But what they did is they would utilize trained intelligence operatives to groom young kids and then place those young kids into very powerful relationships, married to somebody, male or female. So when Ashley Biden's diary comes out and you hear that Joe Biden is molesting her and doing sexual abuse to Ashley Biden, he's not doing it because he's attracted to her. He's doing it because he's grooming her. He's doing psychological warfare, trauma-based psychological warfare to her to groom her for something that they're going to do. She's going to be an operative, a handler of somebody, and the females are typically the handlers. Now, Bridget Macron, I believe, is a male, but is one of the holdovers of Operation Project Monarch that was involved in this, and then she is the handler for Macron. Now, do I believe Candace Owens, everything she says? No, but there's some information that she's coming out with that is relevant and actually substantiated with things that we know. Now, why is this so important? Because of the Epstein files. And I know people are like, wait, what? And why is the Epstein file so important to the Soros network in Venezuela? I'm going to read you my intro to a blog I wrote.
No, not the Epstein files, Josh. No.
Well, but K-Fabi is what got them out. Trump couldn't directly come out there and demand it. It had to go through Congress. It had to go through these steps to get these files out there. And I think what we're going to see.
I say that out of sarcasm.
I know.
If you go and rewind the clock back to, before this year, but if you went just to the beginning of Trump's administration, what did me and Josh tell everybody? When the time comes, Trump is going to have them begging for the Epstein files. And Josh, What are they
were
doing right
spot
now?
on right there. Oh, dude, Democrats and Republicans, the left and the right, were begging for them to be released. This is exactly what we said on this show in the very beginning about the Epstein files, or maybe it was one of our own shows that we did. But
Why don't we find this success when we pick lotto numbers, bro?
I don't know, but you know,
What do we
it's just
Jeez. You know what?
you got to find the pattern. You got to find the pattern. So for years, the public has been told the secrecy surrounding the Epstein files is meant to protect a handful of wealthy predators, a few billionaires, a few politicians, a few celebrities with compromised reputations. This narrative is a comforting illusion. It implies the rod is narrow, surgical, and containable. In truth, the files are sealed for far more profound reasons. They do not merely implicate individuals. They expose the existence of a global architecture, a hybrid intelligence corporate criminal system that predates Epstein, empowered him, and continues to operate even today. In the full contents of the Epstein network were ever disclosed, the public would see that the intelligence agencies around the world have long used human trafficking, sexual blackmail, illicit procurement networks as tools of political leverage. They would see how global banks laundered the system's money, how modeling agencies served as recruitment hubs for covert operation, how philanthropies, NGOs, universities, and scientific institutions were quietly infiltrated and repurposed. They would see how tech giants intersected with Epstein's biogenetic experiments, how political dynasties relied on the same clandestine channels, and how foreign governments used Epstein as a diplomatic asset. This Substack doesn't just cover Epstein. It covers the history of that exact network, starting with Operation Underworld. If you don't know what Operation Underworld is, you go back to World War II, the OSS, precursor to the CIA, partnered with the mafia in an operation called Operation Underworld. The U.S. needed control of ports to protect against Nazi sabotage. Got to remember, the sinking of the Lusitania, various others are what brought us into World War I. This was a great threat during World War II. You had organized crime cabals aligned with the OSS. This then moves into the 1950s and the Cuban connection. This is why what you're seeing right now in Venezuela is so important. See, you have to understand that pre-Castro, it was the mafia. And I'll give you another name for the mafia. The Committee of 300, the Orsinis and the Colanas, the Vatican Black Church, the Black nobility, the mafia that controlled Cuba. Now, this came about. We infiltrated into Cuba. Cuba became the center for moving money for Black operations and funding for the Central Intelligence Agencies. This moved into Operation Mongoose. Castro rises to power. The CIA and the mafia say, hey, we got to take this Castro guy out. He's wrecking our business. Now, what did Operation Mongoose do? We sent a clandestine army that invaded Cuba, and they got slaughtered. This was known as the Bay of Pigs. Okay? And guess what the CIA did? They went to John F. Kennedy and they said, President Kennedy, we need air support in Cuba right now. Our men are getting slaughtered. And Kennedy said, no, it's over. Guess what they did? They killed him because of that. And when they killed him because of that, they hijacked the intelligence apparatus and system. Okay? Now, what comes after this is the infiltration of universities and various organizations around the world by the Central Intelligence Agency. Okay? Now, they moved into academia, universities as recruitment hubs. Jeffrey Epstein enters stage right at the Dalton School. The Dalton School was ran by the headmaster, Donald Barr. Donald Barr is the father, former OSS operative, by the way, CIA operative, father of former Attorney General Bill Barr, the same one that indicted Epstein and was there the day that he died. Okay? And it's believed that Epstein was recruited at this time into the Central Intelligence Agency, which I agree with this assessment. Donald Barr was actually fired because he put out a book called Space Relations, which was about an intergalactic geopolitical battle of controlling human beings on planet Earth with political revolutions and utilizing humans for sex slavery and child pedophilia. I shit you not, that is the book. Okay? But you have to understand, as Operation Paperclip came along, Nazis integrated into OSS and CIA infrastructure, and where did they disperse the majority of Operation Paperclip? The universities. Colgate toothpaste is the first. Colgate toothpaste came out of Colgate University, and they're the first ones that did the tests and experimentations on fluoride and added fluoride to toothpaste. That came about from Nazi Germany of fluoridating water. Okay, this was Operation Paperclip that brought a lot about this about. Okay, so from the universities, you get into MK Ultra. Now, I've mentioned this before, Aden Khashoggi. We talked about this, I believe, on After Hours. Aden Khashoggi in the 1980s is an armed trafficker that was responsible for 85% of the arms trafficking that happened during Iran-Contra. The one guy that managed a lot of Aden Khashoggi's accounts during that time was Jeffrey Epstein. Now, why is that important? Jeffrey Epstein was installed as a middleman, a handler, a financial handler of the dark money. How do you take illegal money, illicit money made through human trafficking, through drug trade, through arms trade, through illicit activities? How do you move it up and make it become legitimate money? Well, Jeffrey Epstein was working for Bear Stearns. He ran a $400 billion scam during the 1980s. They took in illicit money, cash money, put it in the bonds, took investments, took the interest, paid people back legitimately. It was really easy for them. This is how Epstein made a lot of his money. So Epstein basically generates this massive intelligence network and scope that spans throughout the entire world. But these introductions that he had were not accidents. This was the Central Intelligence Agency guiding him in making the introductions to control various different factions within business and organizations. In other words, the reason why they are suppressing Epstein and why they disappeared Epstein, whether he's in WITSEC or whether he was killed, because he didn't commit suicide. The reason they disappeared him is because the information that he would give up is how the system works. Is the system of the global cabal and their dark money networks. It is the system of the money laundering, the human trafficking, the arms trafficking organization of illicit crime, and how that moves through proxy organizations, dark money in the political campaigns, funds and buys off politicians, blackmails them, and keeps their whole network going. It is the infrastructure that is what we are fighting. This is why they can't allow the Epstein files to come out. Well, now we're going to see some of that actually come out. But here's the interesting thing. It's the same network. Here's what I want people to start making this correlation to. Jeffrey Epstein was one of many. Okay? The British intelligence, they had similar people that worked for them. German intelligence had certain people that worked for them. One of those people, George Soros.
Ooh.
It's the same network. It's the same faction. Understand that. The same network that's being taken down with Venezuela and China and all of the stuff that we just talked about, the Soros network, is the same thing that Jeffrey Epstein was doing. But Jeffrey Epstein was a very, very low man on that totem pole in the middle management.
Let me ask you this. Do you think there was a dry run already done on what taking down this type of infrastructure and organization looks like? And would that have possibly taken place in a country known as Saudi Arabia?
Locking people in a hotel for 3 months until they confess to their crimes and get rehabilitated? Possibly, yeah. You know, when they say that on the Q boards that one family was liberated post-Trump presidency, I always say, people say that's the Rockefellers. I say, no, it's the Saudi royal family. It was the Saudi royal family. Because that is when the king, Abdullah, gave up the crown to MBS. That's just my thoughts.
I think it's very likely. I think that purge showed the chain reaction events of how all that looks on a smaller scale.
Yep.
Because like you said, Epstein's one of many. I'm sure you had the Caribbeans, you had South America, you had you had Asia, you had the Middle East, you had Europe, North America. You had these plants everywhere. Listen, the deep state's not going to rely on one blackmailer.
Right.
That's absolute insanity.
And there's many more in operation right now. And so one of the things about hiding all of this is because there's interconnectivity, there's overlaps. And that if you pull the strings of one, you unravel it all. And this is what they're so afraid of. This is why we see this shit, right? The seditious six coming out there saying unlawful orders. Why they want to sow the discontent, because they know the Insurrection Act is coming, because that is going to be one of Trump's next moves. This is why we see that the UK just finished a global pandemic exercise on a virus that kills children. And we just see that the norovirus is spreading across the United States right now. So would they resort to something like that? Yes, they absolutely will. This is scorched earth for them. They know that this is scorched earth. Donald Trump, over the last 11 months, has systematically put in place all the pieces for checkmate. This is the stage is set. It's not that it's checkmate. The stage is set for checkmate.
Let me jump in there, and then you can finish that thought process, because this is something I want people to consider. If you're the deep state and this entire infrastructure that we've laid out for you tonight, and what Josh was explaining in very good detail, this is not an infrastructure that's separate from the everyday infrastructure that all of us Americans live off. It's intertwined, and it's intertwined into that, because if you threaten to collapse it, you collapse the entire infrastructure of what all of us operate off of. That's a safety net. And when you hear a lot of people say, well, just let the whole, and I'm sure someone in the chat's probably saying it right now, just let the whole system collapse, then that's the way you take it down. It is not.
You can't do that.
That's the way that's the deep state's reset, because order out of chaos always happens. The good guy is never the one that comes out of the ashes in that scenario, because good guys inherently don't do bad things, which is what's going on during that window. So what you see Trump doing right now with the tariffs, he's creating this system. It's almost like he's grabbing these avenues and rewiring them different places.
So you're spot on. So I want everybody to think about the mafia, right? So the mafia, they have all these dons up here that control all the command and control. These dons go down through their generals, they're capos, right? The capos control. They're the ones that are going to the businesses in the organization and collecting their fees and making sure all the processes are happening. The businesses are either forced or coerced into this, but are willful players, right? What Trump is doing is he's going in there and repurposing all the businesses and organizations. He's liberating them. He's removing the command and control structure from the top. He cut the strings of the puppet masters, and he's liberating all these organizations that now align and fall under his control. This is why you see the $20 trillion of capital flowing into the United States. This is why you see Trump having all these people that we look at as enemies into the White House. It's optics on one side. It's optics not for you and me. It's optics to the large players on the bigger screen, because what they're seeing is they're seeing the companies and businesses and capos that they once controlled now playing on Trump's side. That's what you've been witnessing.
And it is going to get more insane before we get to Christmas, folks.
Yep. Well, and let me throw this out there. Aliens.
Aliens, man.
Donald Trump will most likely come out and make an announcement before the midterm elections on the existence of extraterrestrials. I got this from really good source. And yes, I started talking about it last week, and it dropped this week that people are talking about it. Yeah, it's coming. And by the way, I look at that as after all this shit happens and we take down this house of cards, You got to reunify the people. You got to bring them back together. You need some type of mechanism to unify everybody. And what did Reagan say? And how fast would we all come together as nations and represent planet Earth if we were forced by an outside threat of this planet?
Well, they already showed us in a very great movie called Independence Day.
That's right.
Where we all came together as the human race.
That's right. And so I think that is what's going to happen before the midterms. It's going to push the Republicans and such over the top. And we should have, hopefully by then, this shit gets cleaned up and we have legitimate elections. But
when we get into that phase, do we stay with DefCon 0 or do we move into like space, the final frontier?
We move back to like DefCon 4 or 5, or we go to DefCon plaid, you know? DefCon light speed or something. DefCon C squared, because we have DefCon 0, so DefCon C squared.
DefCon Star Trek is where we're going. All right, folks, we're gonna get into the Rumble rants, and then we'll give you guys our final thoughts. So, if you have something you want to say, go ahead and drop it in the Rumble rants. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to drop a super chat, feel free to do that as well. And I'll make sure to bring up the Badlands website in case any of you guys chose to drop us a boost. And if you want to know how to do a boost, you can go to badlandsmedia.tv/badlands-boost, or just go in there and search boost. It's one of the top tabs and we'll find it. And so that's up and ready. So with that, let's bring on the Rumble rants. And like Kim K, start it from the bottom and we'll go up. We got $20 coming in from Ray Girls 03. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for your unwavering loyalty. Happy Thanksgiving. And that's right. That's Thanksgiving week, you guys. So happy Thanksgiving. But something tells me that you guys will probably be seeing special event broadcasts from me and Josh. I don't know, in less than 24 hours. Yeah. Stay tuned, folks. $25 coming in from Texas Jules. Howdy to our BTF fam in the house, always representing. Thank you for that, Jules. 17 Sunstone 815. Wow, congratulations, Alpha. Happy Thanksgiving, Alpha and Josh. God bless you both. We all love you to pieces. Thank you both. Thank you. Dollar for dollar, Keith O'Higgins. I'm just so glad Alpha didn't wear the black shamrock hat. Too much signal over noise. That's a good hat there, Keith. I got a lot of the black clover hats. Just putting that out there. $2 coming in from Crystal Loves David 17. David, I hope you appreciate it because Crystal loves you. Alpha, I enjoyed Spaces last night. Ex and based Florida girl. Thank you. Try to give as much information to as many people as I can. $17 coming from Sierra Sky 77. Your link to Patrick Byrne was from your video a year ago. Can you talk more about him? He's amazing. His doc, The Enemy Within, and the work with election fraud is so deep. Get him on DefCon, please. You know, we'll put out the request. I wouldn't mind having a conversation with him again. We've actually talked to him quite a few times in a you're on mute, so hold on. He's saying Alpha, you're right.
I should read his book because last time he yelled at me because I didn't.
Yeah. Well, funny story, folks. Funny story. Here, let me take these off real quick. This is the stuff that you guys, behind the scenes. Here's a little sneak peek. Yeah. Me and Josh are on the phone today. I'm telling about the White House. He's telling me about a connection. We get into the conversation of Patrick Byrne. I'm like, hold on. There's something in his book I want to find. And then I go into a panic frenzy because I'm like, Josh, I can't find his book. What the heck? I have all my books. You guys know I got OCD and I can't find his book. So then I'm like, well, hold on. Let me find this other book. So then I can't find two books. Well, as I'm getting ready to do this remodel in the studio, I've been moving some things around and ultimately I found it. Josh laughed at me and I said, thank goodness. I even told Josh, I go, bro, there's many people in my house to fuck with me.
Well, then a chain of events coincidentally and synchronistically happened for us that made us question reality if it's a simulation.
Indeed. I was like, and it's working because they're fucking with me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but we came through. We won in the end. $10 from Barber Lines Matter. The real question is, Which one of you is Holmes and who is Watson? Stay tuned.
I don't know yet. Yes, you're gonna have to figure that one out.
You guys will have to let us know. $20.
I think we all fucking know.
$20 coming in from Derek U. Jono. You guys mentioned how Monsters Inc. was about Chrome. I recently shared a short clip from Welcome to Derry, episode 4, confirming the movie is about the Chrome 2 on my Insta page at Mr. 805ER2. Check it out. I am curious to see that. $10 coming in from Listone 69. Look at Flynn's post from where he's calling out Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles on treason. As a matter of fact, no, we'll save that conversation for another day. I'm not saying it before. Yeah. $20.
We can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. $20 coming in from Gabriel Blow. Thankful for you guys and the others within the talent and willingness to dig up what us mere mortals overlook or can't find. Gabriel Blow, it's the synergy of all of us. Your presence here ignites the motivation. The motivation sets off a chain reaction of chemicals. Those chemicals turn into searching out problems to solve. So we couldn't do it without you guys, and that's science.
I'm actually very low intelligence until I get in front of the camera. And then all of a sudden, all those endorphins start rushing and like super intelligence kicks in. It's crazy.
It's the mushroom supplements, folks.
Yeah, it is. I don't talk like this all the time. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
He is always smart, folks. Don't fall for it. He is always smart. We were on a freaking shuttle from the airport. And he was dropping some live secrets for me. $10 coming in from Tapper 17. Post 3851. We got what we needed. There is no step 5. Thank you for playing.
Yep.
I love that. $10 coming in from MFrame64. Curious. The end of the PsyOp video says, join PsyOp. Could they be asking us to play along with the PsyOps? Love all your shows. Well, listen, they got to get people in there to be part of that 60,000 plus army, which is probably quadrupled in size since then. And that is definitely probably one way.
And some of you are members of it and don't even realize it. That's how good it is.
Mm-hmm. And some of you are trying to make us believe that you're not. $20 from Mac 5x5. Thank you, Alpha and Josh. Great show. We a couple of certified 4-star generals in the 5th generation warfare here, folks. Josh, you're melting my brain. Indeed. $10 from Listone 69. I followed Patrick a long time ago. He's very intelligent. He took a deck of cards, shuffled it, went through it, gave the cards to someone, and by memory could name each card in order. One thing, and I know Josh will agree with me on this, when you have a conversation with this man, you can see the speed at what his brain is working. It's quite fascinating, actually. $5. You know, a lot of people think of, I'm trying to anticipate what this person's about to tell me. He's already he knows what you're going to say. He's formulated his response and he's thinking about how you're going to respond to his response. Like, that's how fast that man's brain works. Why probably he did so well in his special assignments. $5 coming in from DJ Pick App. Can we get a Jerome quote? Love you guys. Can't wait for the conversations at Thanksgiving. I'm taking red pills. I'm thankful for the knowledge. DJ, I will drop one for you, but Jerome has been retired, but I'm just a black man playing a black man, world full of white men. A modified Jerome quote. Go watch Onlylands from last week. That's all I'm going to say about
Don't
that.
watch Onlylands from last week.
Don't watch. Just watch the first 19 minutes and don't go beyond that. Dollar for dollar, Susan DeBello. An angle to Cuba and the UK most don't dig on is both Trudeau's, Fidel's brother, and Justin's mother's partied while Pierre Trudeau was yachting for meetings. Margaret enjoyed Cuba months later. Baby Justin. I've heard this. I've never gone down that rabbit hole, but I have heard those different ones. $10 coming in from Missy Lola. Other life form introduction coming soon. Yup. Josh just said that right now. I agree. 17 coming in from Raveland. Another tour de force. Thanks. Alpha and Josh. Thank you. And then, wow, $100 scrapping the Benjamins from Charlotte Moore. Charlotte Moore? Am I saying that correct? Help me out here, Josh. I want to make sure we get this one right.
Charlotte Moore. Yep.
Okay, so good. All right. Bravo, gentlemen. This is an example of your connections. Is exactly why I asked you, Josh. It's always about perspective. Thank you for replying. Love your faces.
Appreciate you, Charlotte. Thank you.
Love the Benjamin face that you dropped right there, too. $5 from the new Proof. What are your thoughts on Emerald Robinson's X account thread? Patrick Byrne is pointing everyone to it. Election fraud exposure. We can have a little.
I can go over that real quick.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. That's actually probably going to set up a conversation we're going to talk about here soon.
So, Emerald said earlier, she said, right here, the story of how 2024 election was saved is now breaking on multiple fronts. Gary Bernstein did a show with Laura Logan. Patrick Byrne went on InfoWars and look what Donald Trump is telling you for now. Do you still doubt my sources? And she points to Donald Trump's post. I came out and said, it's very real. Whether you love or hate the people reporting it, it is what happened. If we want to continue an American first agenda, all eyes and voices must be on this, demanding investigation, prosecutions, and ultimately justice. This wasn't a one-time operation. This was a long-running criminal conspiracy that involved treason, sedition, acts of war by foreign nations. It is why they tried to steal 2016. It is why they waged Spizagate, Russia, impeachment 1 and 2, stole the 2020 election, J6, and all of the other criminality. Wake up. It is time to go to work. We cannot let this story get buried. We must demand justice. In other words, there's a lot of influencers out there trying to discredit Patrick Byrne and Emerald Robinson on this. What I want you to understand is you're getting the story from 3 different fronts. You're getting it from General Flynn. You're getting it from Patrick Byrne. You're getting it from Gary Bernstein. You're getting it from other people involved in it. So you're getting a story told from people who have that level of knowledge and information. Whether you like Emerald Robinson is not, it doesn't matter. She's reporting on the, so it was interesting because Rasmussen Polls doesn't like Emerald Robinson. And they came out earlier and they're like, oh, Emerald's at it again, making stuff up. And then Patrick Byrne went and commented on their post and said, what don't you like about her story? Because it's my story. As in, he's the one who gave this intel to Emerald. Just like Gary Bernstein gave it to Laura Logan for the show. Then Patrick Byrne went on Alex Jones and puts it out there. Why? These guys were there. They witnessed this. And here's why the Anons out there are pushing back against this. This is my thoughts. And I know this is going to
sting.
This is going to sting. Because everybody has a plan. And we know there was a plan until you get punched in the nose. 2020 was the punch in the nose. As in, from 2020 to current date, it has been moves and counter moves. It has been shooting from the hip, trying to figure out what happened, how it happened, why it happened, how did they get one up on us? All right? But what it does to a lot of people out there is it shows them that this wasn't one long, consistent plan, that we didn't just let Joe Biden win. That's been my theory too, that we let them win. But what we're seeing is, no, that's not the case, that this was actually the punch in the nose. They got one over on us. And so whether I believe it or not is irrelevant. That's the story that's being told. And some influencers out there don't like the way that story is being told because it probably counteracts a lot of their narrative. And it is what it is. That's why General Flynn said, there is no 5D chess. What you see is what you get. It is as you see it.
I got a video that goes along with something you just said. It's 35 seconds. Watch this, everybody.
One of the reasons I wanted to interview you is because you're the author of one of my favorite quotes ever in English, which is, everybody's got a plan until he gets hit in the face.
100%. Because people now, especially now, no one's going to fight. People like talking now. They get on the stage, they get on YouTube, and they start talking.
Yeah.
And that's why some people Some people are not made for handling criticism. They're just not made for. Some people go off the deep end once you criticize them.
Yes.
Some people just can't handle it. And some of the most powerful people in the world just can't handle it. They're not mature enough to handle criticism.
Boom.
I mean, you gonna tell Mike Tyson he's wrong?
Nope.
I'm not telling Mike he's wrong. Oh, this is the crazy Marine part of me. Actually, I want to see if I can stay conscious taking a punch from Mike. Listen, he would destroy me in a fight. The guy's a professional. I just want to know if I can survive a punch.
Well, that dude on the plane, you remember when he beat the piss out of that dude on the plane? Like Mike Tyson was like jamming out in front of him and had headphones on. The dude's like, quiet down, dude. And Mike Tyson just turns around and starts pummeling him on the plane. And people got it recorded.
God, I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. That dude survived. And he didn't get knocked out.
Bro, what a horrible place to be on a plane with Mike Tyson. Where are you going to go?
And you're the one that pissed him off?
Where are you going, man?
Get me off this plane. Put me somewhere else, please.
That's when you grab the flight attendant. You're like, look, move me to first class. Like, that's what you need to do right now. If not, then let me go sit in your seat. But this is not going to happen. All right, let's bring back these Rumble rants and continue. $1 from Rita Dotson. R.I.P. Jerome. Alpha, do Karen next, please. Don't forget the pink wig. You're not gonna get Alpha to dress up as a woman. That is not gonna happen. And was that the end of our Rumble rants? Yes. Okay. So let me pull that off the screen. Let me see if we got any Badlands boost. See. Baseless conspiracies. Everybody likes baseless conspiracies. Nope. No DefCon. No, nobody loved DefCon enough to go do a Badlands boost. We're losing our mojo. Let's and no super chats. All right, so it looks like we got everything covered. This is what we'll say about tomorrow. Keep eyes on Josh and mine's social media for a show that's to be announced sometime tomorrow. And I can promise you this, it is going to be epic.
Yep, it's going to be one of the ones for the record books.
Epic. Aside from the marketing hook that we just deployed and execute with absolute perfection, what's some stuff you got going on, brother? You can let the audience know. And then,
well, we got Turkey Day. Happy Thanksgiving to all the Badlandia fans and people out there, all the family. We got some content coming out on my Substack. So redpillproject.substack.com. That's where that Epstein article is. If anybody's interested in that, don't forget to follow me on X at Real Joshua Reid or visit my website, redpills.tv. Not much other than that going on, Alpha. Just a low key. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. We have a big show scheduled tomorrow night for people to figure out who we're going to be interviewing. And that'll be broadcasting tomorrow night. And then afterwards, me and Alpha will probably do a breakdown of the interview and tell everybody how that actually came about and what happened. It was kind of weird, but we'll talk more about that. But anyways, that's tomorrow. And then after that, just kind of a light week. We got Thanksgiving Thursday, no show for me. And then Friday back at it and content coming this weekend.
I agree. You guys follow me on Rumble, the Alpha Warrior Show. Get into the trenches of this information warfare with me on X at XAlphaWarriorX. Have 2 shows tomorrow. The surprise one and also the Just Alpha from Monday will be airing tomorrow. And then also no shows on Thursday. I'll be spending Thursday with family. But on Friday, we will be doing the Just Alpha from Thursday night. That'll be on Friday. And then it'll be our regularly scheduled program for Saturday with people. And then Sunday, the Middle East in 20 minutes-ish. And then you can catch all of us, me, Josh, and Brad, Sunday night, late at night, while we're completely exhausted from a very long week to do Q After Hours, the show where we know the boss man in the big Casablanca is watching. All that stuff. Do us a solid, you guys. On the way out, hit that heart, hit the thumbs up, Go down in the comments, and most importantly, smash the like, folks. That really helps us with the algorithm. And you guys have put DefCon 0 in the leaderboard every single week since its inception, and we are very grateful for that. With that, Josh, I don't see any last minute rumble rants that came through. You got a cool video or song for us?
I think we got one that I've already uploaded before that I think would be great for this. Yep, we're gonna play this one. This is redpillsmusic.com, people. This is my music that I built. Alpha actually got something out too.
And I do. And as a matter of fact, I almost forgot. We do have one more sponsor. So when we come back from the sponsor, then I'll let Josh play that funky music, wild boy. Here we go. And this is a new one. Well, new for me. I've seen some of the other shows played in the last couple of days, but Soft Disclosure.
Soft Disclosure just dropped new favorites for the season. The lotion, your 5-ounce favorite, is still here. And now we've added full 11-ounce bottles. New Lavender Tea Tree Deodorant, clean, calm, and effective. New tallow bars, chamomile lemon rose, and naked. Rich moisture that actually works. And on Black Friday, the new arrivals land. Introducing our first men's only formula, beard oil, in unscented and spiced vanilla. Truth, tamed, and finally your beard is too. Tallow lip balms, made with beef tallow and lanolin for serious moisture. Available in chamomile mint, vanilla, naked, and vanilla tangerine. Plus, mini tallow bars, same deep moisture as the full size. Available in vanilla coffee and naked. And finally, lavender vanilla lotion. Smooth, soothing, and worth the wait. On Black Friday, the new products arrive, and so do the Black Friday bundles. Visit softdisclosure.com for truth you can gift.
Soft Disclosure.
All right, and I want to give a shout out to Cherry Me, with a $20 Rumble rant coming into last minute, a little gas money. Thank you so much on that, hon. Appreciate you.
Make sure you guys get those Black Friday deals. Soft Disclosure is popular. And the reason I'm telling you, make sure you go get yours is because all of us that work at Badlands are going to be buying it, and we're going to try to get ahead of you because it's a good product. And I love y'all, but I want my deodorants and my lotions. So with that, you guys, been a great night. Josh, it's always a fun show to do with you, brother. We'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Much love, respect. God bless, guys. Take care.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Still calls, we the people. served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time